Just tell me in your own words what's going on between Reinhardt and Waleska UMC.
For many years, the church has been on campus in Hagan Chapel, which was built in 1987.
There's been, we've been in this building for 32 years, and this building was built in connection with Mrs. Hagan wanted the church and the college to share the building.
And in one sense, it concerns this space, Hagan Chapel, which was created through a partnership between the university and the church. And so it is about this facility, about the use of the facility, the care, the costs associated with it. But in a deeper sense for us, it's really been about our relationship with the university and with this facility.
And almost every year, there's been discussion about the use of the chapel and what part of it the college was using and what part the church was using, which is the main part of it. And they've renegotiated operating agreements over the years.
When we put money into it, then, I mean, we don't expect to pay rent. I mean, it may be 2 bricks, you know. I mean, it's, but that's the basis of it. And they're trying to charge us to be, it's a partnership. That's the way we've looked at it for 32 years. We do our share, the Reinhardt does their share.
And so we have worked to renegotiate those agreements over the years, trying to get shared costs of operation covered by both the church and the university. And so about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, a new negotiation was started on what kind of costs would be covered. And the university has proposed several different options, none of which the church has agreed to.
And so a couple years ago, the university had put on the table an expectation that we would begin paying rent, which is a financial issue in that that's not been a part of the relationship. That was not a cost that had ever been a part of our operating, expenses, part of our relationship. But in a deeper sense was a relational issue, because from our perspective, Mrs. Hagan, whose name is on this facility, when she gave that naming gift, she gave it for us as well as for the university.
This building was built in connection with Mrs. Hagan wanted the church and the college to share the building. That was the deal. And the college, the church, put in $30,000, and the conference put in $10,000 so we could, or they could, make the grading and doing all the prep work and starting the foundation.
Well, I think in the context of the facts that we have worked on this for over 2 years, in fact, almost 2.5 years, to get some kind of agreement from the church that they simply just refused to respond to. We made that proposal, which was really a minuscule amount of operating cost, that they refused to even consider, and they let us know that. So there was no, they weren't even going to consider that. Finally, the Board of Trustees in their meeting in March, the executive committee of the board said, we've got to do something because we have operating costs over there. Costs to put a new roof on the building, to maintain the grounds, to do any major maintenance that goes on in the chapel. And we need the church to participate. And so the board finally just said, okay, here's what it is. This is what you need to do. And we've got to be serious about this.
We've been talking for about 2 years about how we could share the cost of the building. And when I became president, I wasn't aware of the details with the church, and it was in December of 2016 that the church came to Reinhardt wanting to know if we could help with some expanding that they wanted to do. And I was told at the time that the agreement had always been on big projects that the university contributed half and the church contributed half. But the pastor he had been there longer than I had been there, but he was new too, and so nobody had the agreement except Bonnie. So Bonnie, I said, well, I need to see what the agreement is, and so she started looking for the agreement and found this 2006 agreement, which was the last agreement that we had had. It did not have an end date. It did not have anything about the church contributing anything to the school, and it said that they would pay $365 a month in utilities.
Even the encouragement of the bishop of the North Georgia Conference and the district superintendent for the Atlanta Marietta District didn't seem to move the church towards making a decision. And I think it's important that our last proposal that was sent, actually hand-delivered on March 28th of 2019, and then sent via email or sent via mail as well, was never responded to. The first thing we knew that they didn't accept the proposal was getting a copy of an email that the pastor sent out to the church, which frankly was very derisive about the university and troubling.
The suggestion of rent and the way it was approached for us felt like the attempt was to take what has been a partnership and turn it into an owner-renter relationship, which is very, very different.
We do not own it, we know that, but we have a covenant with a commitment with Mrs. Hagan. Now, she's no longer alive, but when she gave the money for the church and the building for the church and the university.
And then also, kind of over time, as proposals were put on the table, they included some numbers which for us caused a lot of concern. The amount per month, the escalation from year to year, plus the expectation that we would pay for the insurance on the facility itself.
And the bishop in the mediation felt like that was fair. By January, there was no progress. The board said, we got to get something. The CFO drafted an agreement, and that agreement, it started at $300 a month, and then it went up. I think it would have ended at year 4 at $750. At that point, you're kind of stuck. You don't know how you can get them to the table because they weren't coming back and negotiating. They weren't coming back and saying, we can't pay $300, but we can pay $150. There wasn't that conversation. There was just, we would get a message back that said no.
So the university made an official statement that released yesterday. And
Yeah, right, I saw that.
We believe, and I believe based on a lot of things I've read and seen, that the church can afford this. And this idea of a fixed income, again, it's misleading, and I don't think it's helpful.
The amount per month, the escalation from year to year, plus the expectation that we would pay for the insurance on the facility itself, even though Reinhardt would be the sole beneficiary of that policy. Those numbers combined, from our perspective, would have created a real kind of dampening effect on the life and ministry of the church. Most likely would have required some cutting of staff, shrinking of programs, perhaps a change in pastors.
After their latest proposal, would you say there's a feeling of distrust towards the university? Do you feel kind of blindsided by the rent prices?
Yes.
I need to see what the agreement is, and so she started looking for the agreement and found this 2006 agreement, which was the last agreement that we had had. It did not have an end date. It did not have anything about the church contributing anything to the school, and it said that they would pay $365 a month in utilities. At that time, they didn't have a preschool, so there, a lot's happened since 2006, obviously. So I took that document to my Building and Grounds Committee of the board, and I said, are you aware of this agreement? I just realized they're not contributing anything. And so they didn't know. They were surprised. So I went to the Finance Committee. They were surprised. I took it to the Executive Committee of the board. They were surprised. And so at that time, we were concerned about a couple of things. We were concerned about protecting both the university and the church because we didn't have any formal agreement.
It was a partnership. It's not like a rent and owner. Because we put money, it may be 2 bricks, but we put money into this building. And they couldn't have built it without it because Ms. Hagan wouldn't give the money unless she thought we were serious.
And again, it wasn't just about cost sharing for us, it was about the nature of our relationship with the university, with this facility. Are we tenants? Are we partners? Those are not the same thing. It was never made clear to us until last Wednesday, as a matter of fact, in a separate conversation, that the university has to set aside what is called depreciation for all the facilities on campus. And it's basically a maintenance fund that they have to set aside a certain percentage for each building. What was not clear to us, had never been said to us until last Wednesday, is that's not Reinhardt's self-imposed goal, that's a requirement for accreditation. And so a university, just to be accredited in this day and age, has to set that money aside so they don't have a massive backlog of deferred maintenance.
We want Waleska United Methodist Church to be a part of Reinhardt University's campus and campus life.
Eventually, when we met with the bishop, we started talking about that we would like them to just share in the cost of depreciation. So the depreciation on the church is about $26,000. You know, we were asking them to help with that.
We've arrived at an agreement which basically covers about 3 years. It's not, we haven't crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, but we're getting there. And then we'll see kind of what we can do going forward. Because we have overlapping missions, you know, that we feel called to serve the campus community. It's been difficult to feel like we're free to invest in that in the last couple of years, but if the partnership is renewed, and I think it's in the process of being renewed, then that, you know, it's exciting to think about what we might do together.
Our most valued relationships here in Waleska, among them is the relationship with Waleska United Methodist Church. We've been affiliated with Methodist since we were founded in 1883.
For me personally, it meant a lot that we got this resolved on Good Friday and could then worship together on Easter Sunday. That made Holy Week end, I think, on an appropriate note.